Welcome to the We Watch This Movie podcast, where we sit down and dissect the latest and greatest in film. I'm Dan, joined by the man with over 2,187 films on his watch list. Jackson, how are you today?
You
really want to be called a racist 9 episodes in?
I've got over 2,200 and I believe it's 50 movies on my watch list now. Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry. And that's on Letterboxd, not IMDb.
Let's not go into that.
Look, we were saddened to hear that Letterboxd have their own official podcast. Last week did we find out, Jackson? That was a heart-wrenching thing, because we were vying for that, weren't we? We were vying for that official podcast.
We're not taking ourselves out of the running just yet. We are far more prolific. I believe they're on their 3rd episode, and we've tripled that number. So, for us, it's only a matter of time. And
I'm a bit skeptical that they have over 30 countries listening to them as well.
I thought it was 50.
Is it? I thought it was 48. I've lost track now. Anyway, today, guys, we're going to look at Parasite, the acclaimed 2019 film by Bong Joon-ho. Wow, what a film this was. We've got a lot to discuss today. Our sponsor for today's video is, of course, Dan Allen Gaming. If you haven't heard of it, it's my gaming channel, Jackson, where you can go and watch all your gaming goodness on YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, any platform you want to go. I'm there giving you the gaming goodness. Isn't that right, Jackson?
Do you host it?
I sure do.
Oh, I would never have gathered.
So, are you ready for today's episode, Jackson?
Yeah, what are we doing?
Parasite.
Let's get to it.
Here we go.
문제라고 생각하지 않아요. 참으로시 이적절하다. 부자들이 원래 참 잘 속아. 사모님이 뭐랄까.
풀타임으로 수업 어떻게 하시는지. Is it okay with you?
Meet the Park family, the picture of aspirational wealth, and the Kim family, rich in street smarts, but not much else. Be it chance or fate, these two houses are brought together and the Kims sense a golden opportunity. Masterminded by college-aged Ki-woo, the Kim children expediently install themselves as tutor and art therapist to the Parks. Soon, a symbiotic relationship forms between the two families. The Kims provide indispensable luxury services while the Parks obliviously bankroll their entire household. When a parasitic interloper threatens the Kims' newfound comfort, a savage, underhanded battle for dominance breaks out, threatening to destroy the fragile ecosystem between the Kims and the Parks.
That was a handful.
What the hell is this movie about?
That was a handful, wasn't it? I mean, it is a bit of a convoluted film if you take a step back and look at it in all its parts. What did you think? I'll throw it back at you. Give me your initial thoughts.
One word. Midpoint.
Midpoint?
What happens at the midpoint of this movie?
Oh.
We do a total 180.
It's a new film.
The first half, we go right up the stairs, and the second half, we fall well below.
It's crazy, isn't it? I've never seen a film do it quite so well as well.
Catches us just off guard. We have banned the word. We have banned the F word on this podcast, so I'll say this. It's an amazing watch.
It's not the F word you're thinking of. Fantastic, Dan. Yeah, so you enjoyed it?
Loved it. First time seeing this at the cinemas a number of months ago amidst the Oscar buzz. Was an exhilarating watch, and rewatching again for this episode at home with a few people who hadn't seen it was great. It really does hold up on a rewatch, and I can't wait to hear what you've got to say. This is going to be quite the gushing episode.
Oh, we've been gushing a lot the last few episodes, haven't we? I think because we're in isolation, we wanted films that are just going to lift us up a bit, maybe. I don't know. We have
from reality.
I've got a few films that I watched recently, though, that I will have to discuss that weren't so good. We can do that a little bit later for our last segment. But Parasite is a layered film, a layered look at the class system that is poor versus rich. It does, well, I'm going to say the word, a fantastic job showing both sides, portraying both.
The man who banned it.
The man who banned it brings it back 3 times already. They do a fantastic job, 4 times, of showing these two sides, the rich and poor sides, both families. They do a great job in showing not one or the other being a villain, not one being good or bad. Both have positives, both have weaknesses, and that's where writer-director Bong Joon-ho comes in. I think this is his best work on the page and put to screen. So he's bursted up the ranks as well. I mean, I honestly, I had not heard of him until this film came out. Being a cinephile, I'm ashamed to say it, haven't heard of him, and now I find myself going through his entire backlog, gushing. Although, look, I had seen Snowpiercer. You said you saw that as well, didn't you?
No, I haven't seen Snowpiercer. I'd heard of Snowpiercer and Okja. And did he direct another film? Yeah, The Host, of course. So I'd heard of The Host, Snowpiercer, and Okja. I haven't seen any of them, but having now watched this a second time, I want to seek them out, as well as Memories of Murder, which I've heard is quite a good watch too.
Very good. I had watched Snowpiercer with Chris.
What did you think? Because that's a fairly divisive film, isn't it?
With Chris Evans, and I liked it. It wasn't as good as Parasite by any means, but it was a good film. You know, it didn't feel as high budget as well.
But Snowpiercer's got 4 times the budget, mate. That's interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
I think where this film succeeds is it's a real rich and dense exploration of its morally ambiguous themes. And if you want to go back and visit this film time and time again, you'll start picking up on so many more motifs, so much layered in, whether it's at the surface level of the story of how it plays out, or just the nods and meta techniques that Bong Joon-ho uses to tell the audience what's going to happen and how this relates to that. This is, look, I don't want to use his name, but for you, this might be similar to a Nolan movie.
Well, look, did you feel like this had similarities to The Prestige? Did you feel like this had a lot of similarities to The Prestige?
Yeah, this is a very cinematic movie, and so is The Prestige.
I thought they were very similar in their structure, maybe not so. In Parasite, for the first half of the film, it's pretty much like a comedy in some ways, isn't it?
Yeah, it really defies genre. Is this a black comedy? Is it a horror? Is it a thriller?
Yeah,
it's everything.
It's
particularly that first half, like
it sort of turns straight into a thriller halfway, but also still has a bit of those comedic elements still floating in. So you're right. It's
so funny. How did he do this?
I don't know.
It's genuinely hilarious.
Yeah, no matter what culture, it's just universally funny, and that's why it picked up so many awards and had so much steam going through into the Oscars. You know, he wasn't the favorite by any means. 1917 was the favorite. It picked up the Golden Globe for Best Director, Best Film, Best Drama. And much like our poll that we did, Parasite just swept all the awards and swept our poll. So it's a fan favourite. I can see why. Everyone raves about it because it's just such a sublime screenplay, well edited. The ensemble cast do a really, really good job, don't they? They're just every single
phenomenal
one of them.
Stuff all around the ground. I love the leading man Song Kang-ho, who's shown up in some other South Korean works. I did recognize him.
He was in Snowpiercer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's just amazing performances. I don't know how Bong Joon-ho's done it. Seriously. It really catches you off guard. Everyone's so believable.
Yeah. So before we head into spoilers, have you got any final thoughts for people who haven't watched this? If I'm going to say anything, if you haven't seen this, guys, go and watch it. Phenomenal film. How long is it? About 2 hours or so.
It's a blistering
2 hours.
132 minutes. Not 1 minute feels its length.
Not at all.
It will fly by. It'll suck you in from the opening couple minutes, and it will not let go. It's a journey. You feel like you've gone through some of the trials and tribulations that the Kim and Park families do by the end of it, but it's well worth the watch. We can't recommend this enough. And similar to my viewing, where I went in not having seen one trailer and having heard anything about it other than it was critically acclaimed and looked like it was going to pick up a couple Oscars, I encourage you to do the same. If you've listened to a plot synopsis or anything on this and you're intrigued, Go watch it right now. We're going to spoil the shit out of it.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better. Fantastic movie. It doesn't drag at all, in my opinion, and there's a barrier there. It is subtitled, so a lot of you guys I know don't watch many Korean films or subtitle films, but you forget about it 10 minutes in. You really do. You don't even realize, and the acting is so good that sometimes you don't even need the script. They just show through their emotions. So, fantastic film. We highly recommend it. Jackson, let's get into the spoilers. Spoiler alert.
All right, midpoint. Let's talk midpoint.
So,
did you see this coming?
Not at all. Not at all. I had no idea. I went into this so blind. So I heard about the buzz for this film back, I want to say it was September, October, Jackson.
So
last
that was
year.
the same for me.
The buzz was everywhere. It was on the top of Letterboxd. It was gaining heat in IMDb. I was getting messages daily saying, "Have you seen this film? It's phenomenal." So yeah, I'd heard it was good. Didn't know it was this good. Went into the theater. I'm really glad I did see it in the theater because a lot of people didn't get that chance. I know you saw it in black and white, didn't you?
No, I went and saw a color presentation.
Oh, okay. You were going to see it in black and white.
Yeah, I did have the opportunity later to see it in black and white, but passed up to watch some of the other Oscar noms that I'm sure we'll get to in later episodes, some other great flicks. But I saw this a color screening as well. It was only a small theater, maybe 40, 50 people, but that was packing every seat.
Yeah, and at first we thought it was a comedy, obviously, by what was going on. We didn't know where this story was going to go because it was blistering pace. It was
dripping with tension, though.
There was this overriding tension, wasn't there, between these families? Looming
feeling of we're not quite sure what to make of these characters. Should we be on their side? They're very likable and funny, but we kind of want to approach their motivations with a bit of distance. We don't want to attach ourselves too much to them, like a parasite, you might say, because we're not quite sure what this family are going to get up to.
Look, I really love both families. I thought they both had, like I said, positives and weaknesses. So I didn't know which side of the fence to go on. And then cut to this midpoint. What happens there? Walk the audience through exactly what happens here.
All right. Halfway through the movie, the Kim family have infected the whole of the Park family. So the son Kevin is the...
And by infected, you mean they've infected... The whole family has come in and working for... they're working for them in every different capacity.
Absolutely. So Kevin, the son, Ki-woo, of the Kim family, is now the English tutor to the daughter of the Park family. Jessica, who is the daughter of the Kim family, is the art therapist, art tutor. It's a little vague to the young boy of the Park family. We've got Mr. Kim as the driver for Mr. Park, the father of the Park family. And we also have Park Chung-suk, who is the maid, she's now the housemaid of the Park family, working closely with the Park mother, who's just a little bit gullible. They call her a little bit simple. So all four of them are now celebrating. They've got the house to themselves. I say all four of them. That's the Kim family, and the Park family have gone out for a camping trip. They're sitting around. They're drinking soju, which is a South Korean, I guess you could call it rice wine, alcoholic beverage, and they're making a mess of the house. They can't believe their fortune, their luck. They can't believe that they've pulled so much wool over the Park family eyes that they've taken over. It's their house now. And all of a sudden, after this lengthy conversation scene, which is it done in one take? It certainly feels like it. All of a sudden, the alarm bell goes, and sure enough, they look to the video intercom, and the former housemaid, whose name I'm going to absolutely butcher, but bear with me, Mung Gwang. We're really gonna do some damage here. If we have any listeners from South Korea, I'm so sorry.
We're so sorry.
I'm so sorry. I'll make a personal cameo for you. Just send through your details, and it'll be me apologizing hands and knees. Yeah. So Mung Gwang, she's at the video intercom, and she's begging to come in. She says, look, I know
that was creepy. I thought I was so tense at that point. I had no idea what was going to happen. It was just the rain was pouring down. She didn't look normal. She looked
And
distraught.
the whole tone shifted. All of a sudden, it all got very frightening and scary. And yeah, she looked very sickly. We can only imagine that for the last 4 or 5 days, however long it's been, she's been living on the street. I mean, where is this woman? We've got next to no clue. She's begging to come inside. She says, I need to get back in. I need to get back in. I've cut the camera. I know the Park family won't be back because they've gone out camping for the son's birthday. I just want to come in. And eventually, our Kim family mother, Park Chung-suk, she relents. She lets the maid in. The maid says, all right, I want to show you something. And she goes, what are you going to show me? Here, come downstairs. I want to show you something.
And there's comedy in that scene as well when she's trying to push this thing open. You can't help but laugh. And how does he do it? How does he blend this comedy?
It's such an odd looking scenario. So when we enter this house from the front door, we enter on the middle level where we've got one staircase from the front door to the middle level. Downstairs is sort of like a semi-basement where they've got food and some other things that you might get from the kitchen. And above on top is the bedroom. So everyone seems to live at the very top. There's a middle level where you enter, and then there's a basement. So anyhow, this housemaid, she comes in, she goes into the basement, and then all of a sudden she's trying to push across a bookshelf, and you mentioned it. She looks about she's just hanging off the roof.
I know, it's hilarious.
Bit of body horror there. It's just so weird to see. She says, I need help, help me open it. So her and Park Chung-suk, they open up the door. So they open up the bookshelf, and sure enough, there's a door behind it. We're going, okay, where is this film going? The door opens, and it's a long, deep staircase, and we descend in this one single take.
And the score elevates there as well. Oh, man.
Into total darkness, and we're going, oh my God.
What is down here?
We're about to really descend. Sure enough, we step down, and the housemaid has a man who proves to be her husband living down there, and he looks demonic.
Doesn't he?
This guy couldn't have seen sunlight in weeks, months, years. It's and
at that point,
he looks like an animal, savage.
Did we know about the son? Because so the son says he has these nightmares about this
about a ghost.
It's about a ghost coming out. Do we know that at that point, or was that later shown? Because
come on, mate, this one best original screenplay. You know, we knew about this.
Yeah, because they do allude to it again to nail it home. But one thing you probably didn't pick up, Jackson, is do you remember the painting that the kid was drawing early on in the film when we first introduced this family? The mother goes, "Yeah, I don't know what he's drawing here. It's actually a drawing of that ghost."
No, the mother says it's a self-portrait.
It's not. It's a self-portrait. It's the ghost. I'll try and get an image up, maybe. Yeah, it's literally him, and it's little trinkets of that like Nolan's films. You look back on a second viewing, you pick it up, just makes it for a great rewatch, and that's the sort of stuff I love. But anyway, keep going.
Yeah, so it's we see this man, and this man, you mentioned it, Dan, looks exactly like this painting from earlier in the film where the Park family mother says, "Oh, this is a self-portrait. My son's obsessed with these. He started drawing these images not long after an incident where on his birthday he saw a ghost and fainted." So we head down, and from this point, the whole movie shifts, and it goes from the Kim family having a laugh, plenty of fun with one-upping the Park family and just invading all aspects of their life to, my God, how are we going to get rid of this housemaid? How are we going to get rid of her husband? And it takes a very dark and twisted turn, and it's so out of left field. What did you think when it happened?
I was shocked. I thought, wow. Like honestly, at that point in the film, I thought it was a good film. But I was really intrigued to see where this was going because there's a lot of hype around this film. You know, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, where is this going? And then I'm thinking, at this point, wow, here we go. Strap ourselves in. We're in for a hell of a ride in. But then, you know, it continues to shift tones after that. I mean, there's the scene where the family are hiding essentially under the table. And, I mean, that is a weird scene where the Park family are with the wife and the son the wife and the husband there are on the couch, and he sort of starts to make a move on her breast. It's just so uncomfortable for us as a viewer, let alone the family all under there. I mean,
yeah, the Kim family. Who is it? We've got Kevin, Jessica, and Katak, the father, all hiding under that table.
I mean, it was. I don't know how he did it. That's all I can say. I don't know how he did it, because it's so funny throughout the whole thing as well, and that's what makes it just that a little bit more enjoyable.
Of course. What makes part of that scene so tense, though, is what happens previously. After the Kim family happen to stumble upon the former housemaid's husband and her, they're in the basement. Well, at first it's just Park Chung-suk, the Kim family mother, who is down there with the former housemaid and the husband, and the rest of the Kim family are listening in. They're on the staircase, and sure enough, of all people, it's the father.
Are you thinking of the scene?
It's the father who trips first. He falls down. He causes his son and daughter to go falling down with him. And yep, the former housemaid snags a photo.
That's symbolism right there as well.
We get our rocket launcher text message. Yeah, it's very, what's the word? Metaphorical.
Yeah. When, I have to say as well, there's a really intense scene. Like as you said, the family are coming home. They're trying to get everything sorted, and she's making the food and this and that. And the family come home. They just quickly hide. And literally the nanny... Do you remember the scene? She kicks the other nan.
Yes, Park Chung-suk. She kicks the former housemaid, Moon Gwang.
Kicks the nan down the
Boots her in
stairs.
the shot. Oh,
I was laughing. Is that bad?
Cinematography and editing. It's just, it's spot on.
Oh, wasn't it? Cinematography.
It is hilarious.
Oh,
it's
so
hilarious.
good.
It's just this flash of violence out of nowhere.
Did you laughed? I'm not insane. That was funny.
No, not at all. It was genuinely hilarious. Park Chung-suk, we learned that she's been a former shot putter, so it's no surprise that she'd have some great leg strength there.
That would have hurt too, going down that stairs.
Well, it does kill her, so I guess it did.
It does kill her in the end, doesn't it? That's the thing. We're laughing at someone's death. The way they've portrayed this film is it's so fantastically crafted that, you know.
Oh, it's a perfect example of black comedy.
Yeah. And so what happens after that? We see them hiding, and then things play out after that, don't they? I mean, it just starts to really...
Things play out, understatement. We see Katak rounding up the troops, getting Kevin and Jessica and rallying them back home. What a sequence where they're just going down, down. Almost they must have gone from one side of town to the other. It must have taken them hours. And there's so much rain. It's hammering down. It's some kind of torrential wet season in South Korea.
It's fantastic.
Absolutely heartbreaking when they get back home and everything is covered in shit. We've got this family absolutely full of shit, and now everything in the house is covered in shit.
Would you believe that street where they live is all built? That whole thing is a set that they've built.
What?
It was all a set, dead set, that they built so they could flood it for later in the film. I thought that was incredible. That the score belting as they're going down these stairs.
How did they build that on an $11 million budget?
It's unheard of.
Astonishing.
It's astonishing. The score that comes through as the family are descending, it's so symbolic, and there's a lot of stair imagery as well. Metaphorical. There's a lot of stair imagery as well, with it might be a nod to Alfred Hitchcock, I don't know, because there's a lot of stairs throughout the whole thing, and many key elements.
It's Hitchcock.
Many key elements in Hitchcock films happen in stairs or around stairs, and it's the same for this film. So that must be an on-purpose nod. And here we see them descending in to their house, and it's flooding everywhere. And then we see the rock rise up. What did you think this rock meant? Because we saw the son's friend give it to him at the early stages of the film. Is the rock the parasite in this film? Because everywhere this rock goes with his son, danger and seems to follow, doesn't it?
On the first watching, I align with your views about the rock on my first watch.
Yeah.
Where I felt that the rock itself was a parasite, and it both brought fortune to the son and led to this great inspiration. But when he clutched it tight, when he felt he needed it, well, it only brought his undoing. It only brought him brain damage by the time we get to the climax in the film's Duno May. So, yes, on a second watch, though, it's clear that the son, the family, they never needed the rock. They just needed a spark. All they needed is a plan. Well,
we see that drilled home as well. The plan.
It's interesting. Everyone in this movie, you need to have a plan. What's your plan? What are you going to do? Everyone seems to look up. The whole Kim family looks up to the patriarch, Katuk. Hey, Dad, what's your plan? What are we going to do? And what does he tell both Kevin and Jessica after that
don't need a
sequence
plan.
where the whole house is flooded? Not that you don't need a plan. The best kind of plan, the only plan that can't fail, is no plan at all.
Yeah, I love that line.
Very sad, tragic, very true though. I'm sure for someone in the lower classes who never has any chance of ever rising out, it's probably how he's feeling.
And that's where that line's so prominent in the ending, where upon a first watching of that ending, I thought, okay, he actually made it. He bought this house. I don't want to step too far. Maybe I'm stepping a little bit too far in the.
We're jumping around in the timeline here.
In the
but
loop
that is
here.
okay. It's our show, not yours.
I thought, yeah, he does make it. He does find his family. But then upon second watching, I'm thinking, no. If you look at the hints throughout the film, he's never going to get that chance. He isn't going to make it, and that's just all a dream, isn't it? That final sequence
sure.
where
it's very satirical. There's on your first watch, you're thinking, wow, this is a big Hollywood ending. I can't believe the son's gone and done it.
Yeah.
And there's never any chance. He's someone with brain damage. He's got no formal qualification.
Correct. And I for whatever reason, I bought into the Hollywood ending at the end there, and then obviously realized upon a second watching, what am I thinking here? And that was fascinating to me as well. Did you buy into the Hollywood ending straight away, or did you see the subtle hints and got it?
I saw through it once we realized in the final shots, which mirror the opening shot of the film, looking at that basement, looking back out through the window, that the Kim family, they're only ever going to be looking through this window. That life of royalty, and having more money than you can poke a stick at, it's only ever going to be a dream and aspiration for them. They are never going to reach it, which is very unfortunate. That's how society is at the moment, that whatever class you're born to, you're stuck there. And regardless of if you think you're going to get out or not, then the chance is almost slim to none. And this is echoed in the film's ending song. It's a little bit bizarre, isn't it, when the credits start and there's this weird vocal track that kicks in. What did you think? He
wrote that song, correct? Or he was singing that song?
Yeah, Bong Joon-ho wrote it, and one of the movie stars who plays Kevin, Choi Woo-shik, he sung it. It's called Soju One Glass, or a glass of soju. Soju being a South Korean drink, and we see the family sip on it in several times. So that song, the lyrics are about Kevin trying to save up enough money to save his father, but supposedly if he was going to get enough money to get that house, it would take him 546 years.
That's right. And the whole film, the theme, that's the theme of the film, isn't it? It's the rich and the poor and the social economy around it. That is the true theme of this film, isn't it? And I mean, or one of the true themes of the film.
Yeah, 2019 was a year full of movies with conflict. Think of something like Joker. Here, probably its best exploration all year. Probably, scrap that word. It is the best exploration.
Was this your favourite film of last year, Jackson?
It's going to be up there.
Not your favourite?
Maybe might need another watch or so. I don't like giving a solid number one. I like on the fence with over here, but it's certainly up there.
For me, it was number two. Being a massive Batman fan, as you all know, Joker was number one for me.
I know.
But you got to understand, he's Batman Joker. You're never going to beat them in my eyes. So really, Parasite is number one. So you didn't have any other sort of theories on that rock, because what I saw upon a second, third viewing, even the rock. When the house is
Dwayne
flooding,
Johnson.
Imagine if he popped up in the film. It probably would have fit. There were so many tonal shifts.
It probably would have been the number one grossing movie of all time. So that's what was missing.
Hey, this did really well in the box office for a Korean film, which is really cool to see.
How much was this? I've got here
300 million,
266 million worldwide.
That's
on a budget
sensational.
of 11 million. The number one
Sensational.
grossing South Korean film of all time.
It must be the biggest Korean film in America ever by a mile.
Easily.
Yeah.
Easily. Half of its gross was worldwide. This had a 10-month run here in Australia from
Unreal.
when it debuted.
Unreal.
They ran this thing in screens, and it managed to pull in about 3.5 million across that 10 months, which is an astonishing feat here in Australia.
Oh yeah,
Because if it's not Hollywood,
10
or if it
million
doesn't-
in
or if it
Australia.
doesn't have- if it's not Hollywood and it doesn't have Paul Hogan, we're not going to go see it.
10 million in Australia is really good because something like, okay, a Marvel film usually does around the 20 to 25, if I'm not mistaken. So to get even half of that for a Korean film, that's unbelievable to me.
Mammoth.
Australians really got behind this film, I think. And when I went to see it, there was a lot of people in the theatre. It was pretty much packed, and I saw it, around October. So it wasn't when it first came out at all. And then it probably got that buzz as well when it won the Oscar, of course.
It did. It picked up $750,000 in Australia the weekend after the Oscar win, which is massive because the movie had been around for 10 months.
Yeah. What I was alluding to before,
Before that sidebar, hey, do you want to go on another one?
the Rock. Before you said
Dwayne
Johnson. I interpreted it the third watching how I saw the Rock. It rose up. To me, that means this isn't actually a real rock because otherwise it wouldn't float. Am I wrong?
It's metaphorical.
So the Rock isn't even. Did he even get the Rock? Is it, there's so many things you can look into that as well. This is what I love, as I say, Jackson, this sort of stuff.
It's rich. It's so dense. There's so many layers.
So many layers. So many levels. 333 to be exact. So that final ending, touching on that again, I had chills, Jackson, that final 5-10 minutes. The score's belting, he's writing.
Rewind another 10-15 minutes. Let's
Okay,
talk about
go
the
on.
climax. Let's
Go
talk
on.
about the barbecue.
Oh, I know. I'm missing that as well. The barbecue scene, wow. Every time I watch that with someone, their eyes light up. Oh my God, what are we watching here? It turns into a horror.
Goosebumps. That was chilling, spine tingling.
Yeah, it was. And everything comes to
when we see the former maid's husband having come out, blood strewn across his face.
Takes a bite of the cake.
After beating his head against the lights. Yeah, takes some of the cake and comes up and stabs Jessica. Whew.
Oh, man.
He didn't seem like such a bad bloke.
I think he just got to him in the end, being by himself for that many days. I mean, it can break a man.
It was his wife's murder. If his wife hadn't murder, accidental death, manslaughter.
Yeah, true.
Had she not perished in that basement, he was more than happy to have lived there. Him having a purpose and being provided for by Mr. Park, that's all he wanted in life.
Mm-hmm.
And had he been left alone, then everything else would have been A-okay.
We don't see much of his backstory as well, so we don't know what... We get a little bit...
He was hiding from debt collectors.
That's right. We get a little bit of where he was hiding for debt collectors, so if he was to step out into the open, he would be taken in anyway. So this life is what he sort of succumbed to in the end, and I wouldn't say enjoyed it, but he did show signs that he enjoyed it. When, remember that scene where the lights are going on and he's flicking the lights with his...
Yes, thank you, Mr. Park. It's the Morse code, and Mr. Park says while this is going on, these lights are always playing up. When are we ever going to get them fixed?
I know, and it's the same for the security camera.
Just don't think about it. Just don't think about it too hard. Why are these light switches ever downstairs in there in the first place? But that's all right. We'll move on from that.
Well, it's funny because this the set of this thing was built. The whole house was built for this movie. You know that, right?
Yeah, wasn't the top half of the film just rotoscoped in? Sorry, not the top half of the film. Oh my goodness, the top half of the house.
Correct. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I remember Bong Joon-ho saying something about when he pitched this to the architect. The architect said something like, "No idiot would build houses this way. This is ridiculous. Like, this is the most bizarrely built house." But it's his vision, and it's actually become an iconic house in a way. When you see this house, you just think Parasite straight away. You know,
this is a fantastic bit of set design. I don't know if anyone would necessarily ever want to live in such, particularly with that bottom level, but...
No. So where were we, Jackson? He comes out, takes a bite of the cake.
I don't know. We got lost in this house.
He takes a bite of the cake and then he stabs the daughter of all people. Was that on purpose?
Yeah, absolutely. He lost a part of his family, and he was going to take something from Ki-tak and from the Kim family.
Hold on. Before then,
Hold the phone.
he bashes the son's skull
Yes,
in with the rock.
Yes, he bashes Ki-woo. That's what I mean. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, is Ki-woo's undoing.
But the rock is real. But as I alluded to before, the rock floats. So that's probably how he survived. Otherwise, his head would have probably been, crushed to a billion bits if it was an actual real rock.
Well, he had.
That's what I got from it.
He had some severe enough brain damage that when he woken up, he was acting like Joaquin Phoenix and the Joker. I think he'd just been spending a bit of time with him in a mental ward.
Oh yeah.
So there was a fair bit of awkward laughter, and it kind of did relieve some of the tension in those later shots.
The cinematography of when he's bashing the skull with the rock, you think he's going to cut. No, Bong Joon, he doesn't cut. He just lets it rip, and you just see
some excellent sound mixing.
Oh my god!
It sounds like someone just punching a lemon. Just oh goodness me,
it's unreal. And then he comes out, he stabs the daughter, and then we see this beautiful moment where he loses it, doesn't he? The dad.
What, Mr. Kim or Mr. Park?
Mr. Kim.
We've got a lot of dads going on in this.
Yeah, Mr. Kim, he loses it because he sees Mr. Park caring about his family more. His daughter's just been stabbed, and they're more focused on their children that haven't even been touched.
Yes, you're touching on an awesome theme here in the movie, which anyone not in your class status or anyone that might be working for you in your employ, they're seen as less than.
Yeah.
So Mr. Park and the mother, whose name we can't even mention, so let's call her the mother, they see anyone they're paying as their pawns, as simply just another material possession. And if we want to get rid of them, we don't have any difficult conversations. We come up with an excuse and we shy them away. The mother says it's the best way to do it. No questions asked. I'll just come up with something, which is quite sad and quite tragic. And in that final sequence, Mr. Kim gives this begging look to Mr. Park as Mr. Park is screaming. He screams, "Mr. Kim, what are you doing? We need to get in the car. Give me the keys for the Benz." So Mr. Kim is sitting there with his dying daughter Jessica. Sad stuff. Throws the keys, and
he just loses it.
They hit the ground, and the housemaid's husband, well, he ends up falling on them.
He just loses it. And I have heard some people say this wasn't built up to enough. This wasn't sort of... It came out of the blue. But for me, there was a lot of subtle hints where he was controlling his anger from what Mr. Park was saying, especially in the car. I remember some things he was saying there about his wife. There was some built-up anger there that eventually, once something of this grandiose happened, he just loses it and he ends up killing him.
Mr. Park and the mother have some interesting dialogue exchanges about Mr. Kim Ki-tak, where they say that Ki-tak seems like he's going to overstep boundaries. We're not quite clear what those boundaries are.
Many times they go to that.
Yeah, but when Ki-tak asks questions about how do you feel about your wife, does your husband look after you? It's this really interesting subtle bit of acting.
It's like a transaction to him.
Yeah.
Him and his wife.
Yeah, very, very transactional, very business-like, where Ki-tak says, yeah, we'll call it love. When Mr. Park says we'll call it love when Mr. Kim asks him, do you love her?
Do you love her? Yeah. And we see that again.
I believe he does, but yeah, Mr. Kim is very quick to challenge them, and he's in no position to do this. He's a man in his late 40s, easily his 50s, and is his time over? Is he just looking to stir the pot? Well, does he really want to weigh in? He clearly wants better for himself, even if he says he has no plan.
It's very transactional, because if you remember the scene where they're sort of making love, well, they're not making love, but he grabs her breast and then I think she starts to fondle him. They don't even look at each other the whole time.
Yes,
their back is up against each other. I can't remember exactly what way it was, but They don't even love each other. It's just a transaction.
Well, look,
Again.
having read the latest edition of the Kama Sutra, I believe they were in the...
Of course you have.
The spreaded eagle position there on the couch.
The wheelbarrow. That's all I can remember.
Back to the movie we're watching.
Not the
know what
other
movies
movie.
you're
Not the
watching, no
other
offense,
movie you were watching, Jackson. We're talking
Well,
about Parasite.
Which version of Parasite did I watch?
Where were we, Jackson? I've lost my track.
I don't
He kills.
I don't even know.
he
Mr.
kills-
Kim, Mr. Kim, Song Kang-ho, what a performance. This guy, in my opinion, should have had some kind of Golden Globe nod or Oscar nod at least.
It
Just
is
a
bad,
nomination.
isn't it?
That's the nomination.
It's really
You can give
bad.
Leo- you can give Jonathan Pryce and Anthony Hopkins Oscar nominations. The blokes are never going to win, but you can't give him one. Come on.
It was really. They missed the mark there, I believe. Look, they did get that ensemble award at the name escapes me of those awards. The Actors Guild, I think it is.
I believe you mean the SAG, Screen Actors Guild.
Correct, yeah. So they won that, and they got a standing ovation from all of Hollywood elitists. So that was good to see, but no one thought that they would propel that. No one thought that would propel them to the Oscars and what would come. He ended up getting 4 Oscars for the same film, Bong Joon-ho.
That's the first time.
That's the
in
first
history
time, yeah.
One person has won for the one movie.
Yeah.
So record-breaking stuff. Not only did they pick up the Oscars, Dan, but let's talk about some of the other awards they picked up.
Well, they won.
Huge award
yeah.
season, and for the sake of brevity, we're not going to go into every award they.
If
they
you
won.
name them
This
all,
podcast will be
this
6 hours
yeah,
long.
it will be. Yeah. You read my mind.
So, Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Foreign Film at the 92nd Academy Awards for the year 2019.
Let's just say it was a tough year, I think.
Oh, it was a huge field.
Huge field.
Well, how many years ago was it now that the Academy opened up Best Picture to having more movies?
Not many. A couple of years ago, I believe. I think, yeah, it hasn't been many. It's been less than 10 years, definitely. Maybe even less than 5.
Beating out Sam Mendes for 1917 and Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Big
But
upset.
and even Martin Scorsese for The Irishman. I think all of them had to bow their heads, though. This truly was a fantastic effort. So also picked up some nominations for Best Production Design and Best Film Editing.
Didn't win, did it? Either of them.
No, but Best Production Design.
I had Parasite winning Best Editing over Ford vs. Ferrari, and that was one of only 4 I got wrong. I just had
Everyone
to mention that.
bow down
to the
movies.
master. You know what? Another one that got wrong that really irked me. Toy Story 4 won, and I went with the roughie there, and didn't get it. That one didn't sit well with me. But anyway, we can talk about that later.
Look, any movie with the words Toy Story in it is going to be way up there.
Yeah.
Okay, but all right. Look, the Oscars are one thing to talk about. Let's talk about the real Cinephile Movie Awards, and that's Cannes.
Cannes.
However you want to pronounce it. Let's go with Cannes. So at Cannes in 2019 Film Festival, this was a unanimous win for the Palme d'Or, which is the festival's top prize, and the first film to have done this since 2013's Blue is the Warmest Color. Have you seen Blue is the Warmest Color?
I haven't, but what I want to tell you, Jackson, is this is the first Korean film to ever do so as well.
Massive.
What's that movie that you were alluding to? Have you seen it?
Blue is the Warmest Color. No, I haven't, but you best believe it's on the 2,251 films on my...
Who's the director for that one? And a no-namer that we haven't heard of?
It's a French filmmaker. I'll leave it there. Otherwise, it's yet another name we're going to butcher here on this podcast, and we've got enough.
Well, look, we're not known for getting names right.
No, if we think back to the last week's episode, The Prestige, and the 8 hours he spent trying to say called low, let's not.
Hey,
move it.
I left it in the edit. You were happy. I left it in the edit. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this, going back to this.
By the way, let's talk about Cannes. So every year there's a different jury president who's voted by many of the filmmakers who have their movies there. Last year, Alejandro González Inarritu. When are we going to talk about one of his films?
Soon. We need to. There's a lot of films. We haven't even covered a Tarantino film. We haven't even covered a Scorsese film. We've got a lot.
Or Kubrick.
Yeah, I mean, we need to get through these directors soon. I don't know what we're... I think next week we're going to be covering Extraction with Chris Hemsworth. I know you can't wait to hear about that. Call of Duty the movie, I'm calling it. That's going to be a fantastic watch, Jackson. I can't wait. Your head's already down. You need to actually watch this, Jackson. You can't just watch the first 10 minutes and say you've seen it all, okay?
Dan, you must be the only person on the face of this planet excited to watch this film.
I'm so excited. I can't wait. I actually can't wait, Jackson. Even if it is the worst film, I can't wait. Chris Hemsworth, man, look at the guy. The physique on the guy. I mean, him and Hugh Jackman, put him in a movie, 10 out of 10. Don't even have to watch it. Anyway, look, what were we saying? Cannes, they switch the director. Did you say every year? Cannes, Caldo. So they switch the head of voting every year. Did you say
the jury president? Yes. So last year was Alejandro Gonzalez. And let's talk about one of his films, but it's not going to be on this podcast because we've got to get.
So why is that relevant, Jackson? Why do they switch it? Just to keep things fair, I believe, is it?
Yeah, keep things fresh. Only a handful of filmmakers have been voted as jury president twice, and many of them are some French legends like Francois Truffaut and Louis Malle and some other people as well, whose films I'm certain neither of us have watched.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Well, I thought it should have won Best Editing at the Oscars. Obviously, I thought it should have won Best Drama at the Golden Globes. 1917, don't get me wrong, fantastic film. I just thought Parasite was that little bit better. And the production design of this, Jackson, I thought was phenomenal as well. I just don't know why that got unlucky. I mean, he won so many awards that they got their due diligence, but...
Oh, there's that famous image of Bong Joon-ho having his Oscar trophies kissing, and it's going to live on in infamy. In fact, we should have that printed on one of these displayed posters.
We should. So that ending then heads into him running down the stairs, Mr. Kim running down the stairs, and we see him in a bit of distraught. What do I do? And then it cuts away, doesn't it? And later we find out that he actually ends up in the basement, which is very... what's the word?
Metaphorical.
Let's just go with that again. I mean, it's amazing what they did. It's amazing
Ki Woo has no idea what that word means, and from the sounds of things, neither do we.
Well, it was just... Look, I thought it was just amazing how that final... Yeah, I love that scene as well, but that final 10 minutes, really... I just love how it was crafted. Where he's writing the letter, or he's reading the letter from his dad through the Morse code. So he goes up to the mountains and he's got his binoculars out and he sees the Morse code. I just thought, I had chills then. I know it's a little bit on the nose for you, probably, but this sort of stuff I love. I just sink my teeth into it and enjoy it. He has the binoculars out, the sun, and he puts together the Morse code and figures out this letter. It's yeah, I understand it's a little bit contrived, I guess.
I suppose, but not at all, because it was set up that there was Morse code there to communicate with.
They set everything up so well.
The housemate's husband had been attempting to communicate with the Park family's son, as the Park family's son was a Boy Scout and knew how to interpret Morse code, as did Ki Woo. So
everything was connected.
Yeah,
it was believable.
I love how both these families are both different interpretations on the stereotypical nuclear family. Both had a mother and father, and the father was seen as the patriarch of each family, who attempted to provide for everyone else as best he could. In the Park family, was clearly through wealth and providing a solid foundation and structure. And in the Kim family, well, don't know what else he provided aside from fucking everything up, but that's okay. And both families also had a daughter and a son, and in both families the son was very inquisitive and very practical and wanted to come up with different ways to go about doing things, whereas the daughter was very typical teenage daughter, very distant, looking for some kind of escape, something else. I especially love Jessica. She was such a powerhouse in this movie.
We could talk about all the actors and actresses all day long. I thought they all put in a phenomenal performance, and they deserve that astounding standing ovation.
Astounding standing ovation. You
Yeah.
want to say that 5 times 5?
Well, they did, Jackson. Every single one of them, and I want to see what they do next. Every single one of them as well, because I just sort of got caught in the bubble of Korean thrillers and movies after I watched this. So for the next month,
such a great bubble to get caught in. Like,
it is. There's a lot I've got to recommend to you, Jackson, especially Memories of a Murder, which is one of the best thrillers I've seen. We can do an episode on that maybe later on.
Please.
One thing, yeah, and then so he eventually buys this house. Well, he obviously doesn't, but we're seeing him buying this house. He walks in and they embrace. It was a very moving ending, but as I said,
For naught.
It's not going to happen. That is just a fantasy, isn't it? He's
someone with what we can only assume is very severe brain damage.
Yeah.
He hasn't gone to university before, despite clearly understanding English enough to maybe go and become a teacher or a tutor, and he's trusted by the family friend who gives him Scholar Rock that he could go on and do this, and says, "You're even better at teaching English than I am." But now I don't believe this is ever going to happen.
Yeah.
And Park Chung-suk, the mother of the Kim family, God, she had a rough trot, didn't she? Her husband's gone missing. Her daughter's dead, and she's got to care for this son who can't stop laughing at the most inopportune of times.
Oh, we didn't touch on that. He's laughing at just the worst times.
Yes, we did. It was clearly Todd Phillips flew over to Seoul, South Korea.
Oh no, right. Yeah, Todd Phillips and Joaquin had a little exchange, did they, with Bong Joon-ho?
Look, if you're going to steal from someone, it might as well be the best of the year.
Yeah, it's the whole play on poor versus rich. And Jackson, I don't know about you, but like I said at the top of the podcast, I didn't align with either or of them because they're
all morally reprehensible. The Park family, they're just using people and looking down on them. And Mr. Park constantly complains how Mr. Kim smells of horseradish, and then in that final climactic barbecue sequence for the young boys' Indian-themed party, he refuses to touch the housemate's husband who's died, and he's screwing up his nose.
But it's
gut-wrenching stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, the Kim family have been brought up in this world where everything's perfect, and so really, is it their fault?
The Park family.
The Park family, yeah.
I'm going to say yes, because if Mr. Park's the patriarch and he's the head of the family, then I believe he should know better.
Because we get this scene with the mother of the Park family where she says that she's been paying him well, and they're doing all the right things. I don't know. It's one of those blurred lines where they've been brought up in this high income family and they just don't know any better, do they?
No better at all. Mr. Park is doing his best he can to make sure that not only his wife but his son and daughter don't see any discomforts and none of the harsh realities of what's going on in the outside world. The house very much looks like a prison, and it's not only. We even see that in the framing of some of the shots with the pillars in the staircase trapping people in, but it's also keeping the outside world from getting in.
Well,
in fact, we rarely see anyone watching any television. It seems the only television in the house appears to be the one in Mr. Park's bathroom, which Jessica bathes in.
That was a weird thing I did notice as well. Did you notice with the cinematography, there was always lines separating, these subtle lines, whether it was through the stairs or the background,
yes,
separating these characters from poor to rich.
Very Hitchcockian.
Very Hitchcockian again. And the cinematography, I don't know if we touched on it, was astounding as well. As well as the editing.
Lots of panning throughout the first half of the film where we go up, and lots of tracking shots going down in the second half of the film.
But it's a beautiful film to watch.
Gorgeous.
Every scene is so...
Every frame's a painting.
Isn't it? That is one thing I really loved about it upon rewatching.
Pause it at any time, and it's a feast for the eyes.
Yeah, pause at any time and you got a screenshot. You got a wallpaper. Yeah, so, I mean, what else can we touch on, Jackson? I think we've covered a lot of this film. What was your favourite scene?
I love the peach sequence when we move from the first act into the second act, where it's clear that the Park family have this real sense of false victory. So they set up, it's a heist movie, really, in the first 45 minutes, where we've got Kevin as the English tutor, we've got Jessica as the art therapist, and Mr. Kim as the husband's driver, and now we want to get Park Chung-suk. She's going to come in as the housemaid. How are we going to do it? Well, the current housemaid, Moo Guang, she's a feisty one. She's a devilly one. She's clever. She's caught on, not like the rest of the family, who, particularly the Park mother, doesn't know any better. So what do we learn? Oh, I love peaches. Why are there any peaches in this house? Oh, well, the maid's allergic to them. So we go buy a peach. We scratch off some of the peaches, and then we sprinkle that on her. She goes into an anaphylactic shock, goes to the doctor. Mr. Park, while just, happens to be sitting at the doctor's, takes a photo. Oh my God, I've seen the housemaid, shows it to the family mother. Oh yeah, she said that she was, what was it? Was it HIV positive?
I don't know. And they keep what do they do to the tissues?
They just keep layering in this on.
Tomato sauce or something.
Yeah, and eventually
ketchup.
We see the ketchup from when they're folding pizza boxes. With pizza, having a pizza at the start of the movie, and just that great shot of Mr. Kim Katuk taking the tissues with the blood out of the bin. It's just fantastic.
The peach,
stuff.
Jackson. She was allergic to peaches.
That's
course.
What I said,
How did
the peach sequence? The peach sequence. Now, if all of this sounds like it's full of twists and turns and a little hard to follow, we cannot possibly do this sequence any justice. I believe it might be 5.5, 6 minutes long, and it is the best 5.5, 6 minutes of any film in 2019.
Best editing I've seen all year.
Movie,
that's why I picked.
It has to be the best 5-6 minutes. The editing is amazing. Please help me gush over this.
That's why I had it as best editing for that scene alone. Incredibly well done. The montage put together. We'd already seen the family infiltrate a bit more, so we didn't need the full. What do you say? We didn't need the full revelation of the whole thing. We just needed this nicely cut montage where they all ended up getting in the end, and that was that final part to it. I just thought it was very well done.
Let's drop the P word. Perfect.
It was. If any moment of this, if any part of this movie was perfect, it would definitely be that. So that's your favorite scene, Jackson. For me, my favorite scene, no surprise, is that final scene where he's got those binoculars, as I said, and he's working out the Morse code. I had chills every single viewing. I've had chills at that certain moment. So rewatchable, so beautiful, but also so tragic. Just everything about it. The score that plays at the back, as I said, really, really elevates it, and that is definitely my favorite scene. But don't get me wrong, there's plenty of scenes you could choose for this film. I mean, I can name 10.
My favorite scene was the part between the opening and the end credits.
That's exactly right. So that's look, final ratings. Jackson, is there a chance of this one knocking off Mulholland?
Kick us off, Dan.
Look, I'm going to give this one a 9. I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10. Just misses out from a 10 for me. Just. By that much. And don't get me wrong, 9 is a must-see on my scale. So everyone knows this is a great film. We don't have to tell anyone now. We've been going for an hour and a half, whatever it's been. This is a phenomenal film. 9 out of 10 from me.
If you've gotten this far through the podcast and you haven't watched Parasite yet, A, what the fuck are you doing? And B, go watch this movie right now. 9 out of 10 nuclear text messages. I have to agree with everything Dan said. Will it stand the test of time? We're going to find out. Our money is on yes.
9 out of 10 from both parties. You said why. I'm asking, why didn't this get a 10 from you now?
I said I agree with every sentiment you made. Will it stand the test of time? We are going to find out. When it comes to a fourth or a fifth rewatch, then we'll really know.
So there we go, 2 9s. That is up there with our best, isn't it, Jackson? I think Jojo
That's
Rabbit.
on par with both Jojo Rabbit and Mulholland Drive. So we've now got 3 movies sitting at 9 out of 10 or 4.5 out of 5 letterboxed. When are we going to crack 5
When
stars?
are we going to crack the 10? I've got a few 10s on my list that
You know
we
what?
might have to tick off.
It could be next week with Extraction.
Look, don't make me laugh. Look, I'm willing to bet it's not next week. You never know. Look, you never know with cinema, but I think we know. When has Netflix delivered a 10 out of 10 film since... Even Roma wasn't a 10 out of 10 for me. You never saw Roma, did you?
Look, we've gone into it a couple times on this podcast. Uncut Gems could be up there.
Even that's not a 10 for me. But
Future
I
episode.
don't think Netflix have done a 10 out of 10, in my opinion. They've done some good films, don't get me wrong. I just don't think they've never got to that level for me. But anyway, so it's a 9 from each of us, so it's up there. But who will crack? Maybe leave us a message or comment on one of our social platforms what you
If
think
you've
could
got a
crack
10 out
that
of 10
10.
movie, shoot it on through to us on Instagram at We Watch This Podcast, and who knows, it could be in a future episode.
Beautiful. Jackson, why don't we move on to what we watched this week? I've watched a fair few since we last talked, Jackson. So I don't know about you, but I've got a lot.
But pick one.
It's hard to say. I want to pick... Look, I'm going to pick Underwater, okay? So I watched a movie called Underwater. Came out early this year, I believe.
Oh, is that the Kristen Stewart film?
Kristen Stewart film, correct. It's sort of a survival movie in a way where there's like an underwater monster that they're trying to run away from and obviously trying to escape. It's one of those films, think Alien, think more recently Life. I don't know if you saw that. It's sort of like that.
It's Alien Underwater.
It's very blurry, very predictable. It's not much of a film. But in saying that,
Glowing stuff.
look, in saying that, I was entertained. Is that weird to say? I can't... It's very hard to describe this film. I watched... It ran for about an hour and 45, I want to say. It was very blurry. You could barely see a thing sometimes because it's all underwater. I mean, I don't know. This CGI was very, very average. I was sort of glued to the screen, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I want you to watch this one, Jackson. It's a really... Yeah, it's a hard one to describe, that's for sure. I can't...
What did you give it?
I can't recommend it. I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10. I can't...
Really? 6 out of 10 and it's not a recommendation?
No, I couldn't recommend it for many. I mean, if you're a real survival fan, maybe, but... Yeah, I don't know. I guess I enjoyed it to some extent, giving it a 6, but there's a lot wrong with it. So, what did you watch, Jackson?
This week, I watched The Graduate. You ever seen The Graduate?
I don't even think I've heard of it. Tell me a little bit about it.
Wow, okay. This is a real masterpiece of American cinema. So, well, at the time...
Hold on.
Now-
Let me guess. It's 90 minutes.
No, it's almost 2 hours.
Oh, okay. You surprised me.
Sorry, I did have to give it some attention. It took a bit out of me, you know what I mean?
You've been going for a lot of 90-minute films. That's all I'm saying.
So, The Graduate popped up in my movie recommended. Shout out to Movie. And I thought, all right, I've heard many great things about this. Let's sit down. 1967 picture, famed director Mike Nichols, who is truly an actor's director, just pulls some fantastic, there's that word again, pulls some great performances out of whoever he's got on screen. And this film, a breakthrough role for Dustin Hoffman, it didn't disappoint. Comedy drama, very much a coming of age story, a maturing of this university graduate who has come back. He's 20 going on 21, played by a 30-year-old, which is a little bit jarring. and has come back to his hometown, has no idea where he is in life. The film has a very interesting relationship with water. So I guess we've got something tying both these pictures that we watched this week together. Yeah, there we go.
When did this film come out, did you say?
1967. It's over 50 years old. And a great way to put it is it's both dated and timeless. It's got a score by Simon and Garfunkel, which in 1967, being a folk duo, must have sounded a little bit bizarre and now sounds very dated. But with classic songs like Here's to You, Mrs. Robinson, and The Sound of Silence, it does work. I enjoyed it. As I mentioned...
Is this the first time The Sound of Silence was featured in a film?
Yeah, I believe this was. The film was... This was in... It's all throughout the movie as well. They really lay it on thick. And I think in the behind the scenes, Mike Nichols used the score as a bit of a placeholder. They were going to get some original music as the song had come out and kind of flopped a few years earlier. But sure enough, they went with it. They felt it fit perfectly. And I have to agree with the sentiment. It's a gorgeous looking movie. If you were to, I believe I was watching a restored version, and if you were to watch this today, having no idea that it came out in 1967, you could have sworn it was made today. It looks fantastic. Someone like, there's that word again, someone like Quentin Tarantino has clearly looked at this for part of his aesthetic in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and he was spot on to lift from it. Very challenging themes for the time. It even has some very racy nudity.
Well, it's a romantic comedy, yeah.
It's, I don't know about romantic comedy. It's more like a comedy drama with some romantic elements.
Okay.
And Mrs. Robinson, who's just expertly played by Anne Bancroft, she was only a few years older than Dustin Hoffman, but certainly looks about 20 years his senior in this. She smashes it out of the park. The first half of the film is just an amazing ride. From the first shots, we're hooked, and the cinematography, particularly for the time, is great. It really holds up now. Second half of the film, not quite as strong, but at 108 minutes, it didn't feel its length. Sure, the story goes in some interesting places. I don't want to go into it too much. If you haven't seen this, go out and see it. Let me know your thoughts. 8 out of 10 scuba diving suits.
You've really been going through those classics lately, haven't you?
And I've got much more to go. Dan, you ever seen any Akira Kurosawa films?
Probably. Name some off to me. God.
The Seven Samurai?
Yeah, I have. What else?
You have seen The Seven Samurai?
Yeah, what else?
You ever seen Ran?
No.
Okay, so Ran's on movie at the moment, and that might be coming up next week. Another near 3-hour epic, so who knows? Maybe I'll watch 2 90-minute movies in the meantime.
All right, beautiful, Jackson. It's been a
just
pleasure.
That wraps us up for Parasite. It's been a journey.
It's been a journey, but it's been a pleasure to talk to you today about Parasite.
Oh, thanks. I really appreciate it, mate.
I want to thank all our listeners today for tuning into this fantastic episode. If I don't toot my own horn, who am I?
Not Dan Allen, that's for sure.
What do we got on next week? Extraction. Can't
Have
wait.
we? You sound a bit lost there, buddy.
Extraction. I cannot wait for you guys to hear our thoughts on this movie. Of course, please review our podcast if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating when you get a chance.
If you're so kind.
If you're so kind, and please share the podcast around to any other movie lovers that you know of. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure, as I said. Please follow us on all social media platforms. Jackson, where can they find us?
You can find me at Marshall on Film on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and of course Letterboxd, where I attempt to write reviews every day. Yet, like every writer, let myself get as distracted as possible. But you will find movies on there. Like from a few weeks ago, I just uploaded a review of Jojo Rabbit. We've got some coming on other episodes we've done. The Platform, The Prestige. And don't forget your Z-grade movie schlock like Tromeo and Juliet, as well as Blood-Sucking Freaks. Plus, you can check out our podcast, like Dan said, on all social media at We Watch This Podcast. Be sure to drop us a line on Instagram and hit subscribe to whatever platform you're listening to us on right now.
We are on everywhere. If you're listening to us somewhere, but we are literally everywhere. Stitcher, YouTube. I mean, we are everywhere, Jackson. So
we are parasites interloping on your private life.
So, Extraction next week, guys. Look forward to that. Drop us a message. And thanks, of course, to our sponsor, Dan Allen Gaming. Make sure you subscribe to his channel as well. I've heard he's a very good-looking, handsome young man with some great content. Jackson, thanks again. We will talk to you soon, guys.
Thanks for listening.